Hello, I'm Askar Sharif, and these are the latest updates from Kazakhstan. The country's intelligence services and foreign affairs ministry refused to comment on the investigation of Gennady Pavlyuk's murder. The well-known Kyrgyz journalist was murdered in Kazakhstan in December of 2009, and the security officials have yet to announce the results of their findings.
Kazakhstan authorities are not interested in foreign journalists' murders on the territory of their country. An unexpected turn in the investigation of the murder of Kyrgyz journalist Gennady Pavlyuk took place last week when a Kyrgyz opposition leader, Omurbek Tekebayev, identified one of the 5 suspects during a questioning. The person on the photograph shown to the politician was Aldayar Ismankulov, an officer of the National Security Service of Kyrgyzstan.
According to Kazakh information companies, the people in question are the officers of the counter-intelligence services of the Kyrgyz National Security Agency. I'm ready to collaborate with Kazakh investigation authorities.
In its turn, Foreign Affairs Minister of Kazakhstan refuses to comment on the issue. The ministry's reaction is understandable, as even witness testimonies cannot serve as a basis for an international scandal.
We do not comment on the versions and rumors. I think you should address your questions to the competent law enforcement agencies which conduct the investigation, and maybe to the Internal Affairs Ministry.
At the same time, the International Affairs Ministry considers representatives of foreign intelligence agencies as regular citizens of Kyrgyzstan.
We can only say that we are suspecting the involvement of Kyrgyzstan citizens in this crime.
The Parliament's Committee on the Foreign Affairs and Security has also never heard about the activity of Kyrgyz intelligence services on the territory of Kazakhstan. MPs say that they do not see any threats to the national security, although only one MP truly monitors the investigation.
This is a complicated case, and there is something shady going on the part of the Kyrgyz side. Clearly there was a joint group, but I really cannot say anything more about what will happen next.
The official silence on the issue of the national security is understandable. After all, in other countries similar incidents lead to major international scandals, of course, if there is enough of political will for that.
The authorities are also reluctant to improve the fate of some of the villages that suffered from recent natural disasters in the Almaty region. So far, officials focus all of their efforts on the problems of the settlements that suffered the most, the village Kazalagash.
Yegensu is another forgotten village in the Almaty region, near Kazalagash. Its head, Bayan Kurmangalieva, is on a business trip, while the district officer is not informed about the situation. While all forces of the regional emergency agencies are concentrated in Kazalagash, almost 50 houses of the neighboring village are doomed to be flooded. Yegensu has been waiting for the help for already 2 weeks. The dwellings of the local residents are in emergency condition because the water has destroyed foundations and floors in many houses. Recently, the special commission visited the village and promised to help people with repairs. According to villager Berik Urazgazin, only one truck with food supplies reached the area since the tragedy day. At the moment, Urazgazin and his family live in the summer kitchen. Most of their cattle were killed, and they have only 2 bottles of oil, a bag of flour and a package of pasta left.
We keep on waiting, but all humanitarian aid goes to Kazalagash. Why cannot they send at least a couple of trucks here? The tents were brought here by Kyrgyz, who saw that storehouses there were already full.
Punkashe Osmanbekova also does not know where she will live now. Her family temporarily stays at the neighbor's house, while their own house is full of silt and dirt and the yard is flooded with water. The house is 40 years old and the promised repairs are not likely to save it. There is no help, we have no place to sleep, and the house is collapsing. All of our property is lost and nobody is going to compensate us. Meanwhile, the authorities have officially said last week that settlements like Yegensu, where no death were reported, are the next on the list of receiving aid. However, the governor Serik Umbetov did not specify who exactly and when will deal with the dying and forgotten villages.
Meanwhile, search operations in the affected region are still underway. On Tuesday, rescuers found another body of a child killed in the flood. According to official estimates, there is only one person still missing following the tragedy.
According to the emergency ministry, 44 bodies were found since the beginning of the rescue works. Meanwhile, Komsomolskaya Pravda Kazakhstan reports that the Almaty regional authorities are planning to raise a monument to the victims of the devastating flood. It is yet unknown how exactly the memorial will look like. The local administration suggests that the monument should be engraved with the names of the Kazalagash tragedy victims. Perhaps its opening will take place on June 15th. This when local residents will be presented with their new housing.
News agency Interfax reported on Tuesday that businessman Mukhtar Ablyazov revealed the names of offshore companies that supposedly belong to Timur Kulibayev, the son-in-law of the Kazakh president. Ablyazov sent the new documents to the Prosecutor General of Kazakhstan as well as the chairman of the National Security and Tax Committees of the country.
The statement says that the offshore companies engaged in the export of Kazakh oil have not paid the state $10 million in taxes in 2008 alone. Documents confirming Ablyazov's arguments are included in the statement. These facts are sufficient in the opinion of the businessman to instigate 3 legal proceedings, in particular on tax evasion, the legalization of property by illegal means, and the abuse of power.
The US ambassador in Kazakhstan commented on the most scandalous trials in the country. While remaining very diplomatic and avoiding personal evaluations, Richard Holland still criticized the authorities and said that democratic states would have never held a trial similar to the one Mukhtar Jakishev was given.
US Ambassador Richard Hoagland has met with Kazakh reporters in Almaty and talked about the principles of democracy in the wake of recent political scandals. Hoagland refused to comment on the arrest of the former head of Kazatomprom, as it was a closed process. Nevertheless, the diplomat noted that truly democratic countries rarely classify similar trials.
This would be true for Mr. Jakishev. It would be true for other trials that have been very high profile, but it's also true for every citizen on an everyday basis.
Kazakhstan democracy is still young, the ambassador said. The opposition is especially sensitive about the difficulties of the political transition age. Jakishev was sentenced to 14 years old in the colony and was soon followed by those who spoke up in his defense. 10 days of arrest for distributing leaflets were given to the activist of the unregistered party Alga, Vladimir Kozlov. The police is also interested in another party members too.
Подождите, я с первого ваши данные записал. Вы же записали? Нет, еще не записал, вы же не показываете. Я показываю вам, держу.
Fatima Kastenova calls the recent events political repressions and fears that police can use her passport data to file an administrative action against her.
The
President's administration has commissioned the purge of the political field before the Nazarbayev's anniversary. The first to fall was the political party Alga. The American diplomat knows well about the situation and says that the young democracy should not be repressed, even if the country is not ready for it yet.
No, I've read about that.
Да, я знаю, я читала об этом.
What would I call that? I would call that democracy as a work in progress.
Как бы я это назвал? Я бы назвал это демократия, которая все еще продолжает строиться.
In general, foreign diplomats do not like talking about the democracy in Kazakhstan. They usually reach the peak of frankness only after completing their missions. Therefore, the current US ambassador will share its true impressions of Kazakhstan only in the future.